Demello Jones, big Georgia guy. And we're talking about Bullard. We were talking about Stetson earlier. Demello out of Swainsboro. You don't really pronounce that O in Swainsboro. I don't even think you pronounce the final letters, just Swainsboro. But
don't ever get stopped for an expired tag in Swainsboro, because I did one time, and they hit me for almost $400.
Easy place to get stopped to. Speed trap town.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah,
big time.
I was trying to think, Ro. I've been doing this for like 9 years now. I can't think of a Swainsboro guy that they've ever gone after. That's
me neither.
It's pretty unique. So Demello Jones, though, a guy that Georgia got in on, and let me tell you, really coveted. Well, you got one?
Rico Johnson?
Was Rico out of there?
I believe Rico Johnson was from Swainsboro.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I was listen, this is a guy that Georgia really wanted. They've been pushing heavy for since the fall. To get him in now, I think was a little bit of a surprise. Although I will say I predicted that just over a week ago.
Of course,
over on the recruiting prediction machine at on 3. But two-way player for Swainsboro. That's how it is with most of these guys that can play at this level, especially at a school that size. Not a gigantic school, so you're going to be you're a pretty special athlete, super fast guy, does a little bit of it all. Georgia likes him as a corner. Fran Brown been leading the way there, and just a tremendous player, man. I mean, you can see it on the film. He's got all the speed in the world, great size at this stage. It's like 6'1", like 180, can run like the wind. I mean, I heard glowing things about his state championship performance from people who were there. Just a great get, and a big one because everybody was in on this kid, man. I mean, Alabama wanted a piece of this kid. This was not just a one horse race. This was everybody in the nation kind of in on this guy, and Georgia able to keep one of the best in the Peach State home.
Yeah. When I go back to Bennett and Bullard winning those MVPs in the postseason, I just can't really I can't help but think about how important it is to continue to have dudes like this.
Yeah.
Even though Georgia is internationally recruiting, they just offered a kid from Nigeria that is playing football in the UK right now, internationally recruiting everybody. When you own the state of Georgia, and I know Georgia doesn't necessarily have to own the state of Georgia in recruiting, but when you keep bringing in guys like this, man, it just really creates this glue of what I feel like is important for Kirby Smart. Look at his staff. It's all Georgia guys pretty much. So, yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Georgia's going to have a lot of competition, it looks like, to hang on to this commitment.
No doubt.
But this one was big.
No doubt. They'll have to really keep on him. But, sounded solidly committed. Like I said, a big pickup for them. And I think he's really seen what Georgia's done with that cornerback spot over these last few years. Really connected well with Fran Brown and has stood out there. And just appreciates Georgia's family atmosphere, too. Mentioned that several times when I talked to him. The connection that he had with coaches, the relationships that he'd built with those guys. Just said it was a very hospitable and tight-knit atmosphere there, and that stuck out to him in a big way.
So your indication is that he will play defense?
Yeah, I believe he's a cornerback at the next level for sure. Now, he's got the capability to play wide receiver if they need him to, or they think that that's maybe where his future is long term. But I think that the take here is as a cornerback, listed as an athlete and probably get a chance to do a little bit of both. But I think that he'll continue to do both in high school. But I think his destination, at least the projection right now, is at cornerback under Fran Brown.
Got it. Well, that was a big start to a big week of recruiting, maybe if not news, just recruiting waves on the Georgia front with Dylan Raiola in town, visiting in Athens. I was out there last night for dinner, and Athens was hopping. So I have no doubt that everybody and anybody who was visiting the Dawgs had a fine time. But what was the takeaway? What was the big scuttlebutt from some of the other names in town as well?
Yeah, not too much surrounding Raiola. Not too much different, I guess I should say. It's kind of what we felt going into it. These are important visits for him. I think at the end of the day, really, though, he's got to decide, does he want to be part of a 2-quarterback class, or does he want to go somewhere else and be the man? Because Georgia is going to take 2 in this class. Ron Puglisi is saying everything right. He wants to be part of this class. I think that it's a situation where does Raiola want to play alongside that? Also, too, I mean, look, the USC factor is big. I think that if you're a top flight quarterback and you're looking at Lincoln Riley, you have to consider him, man. He's doing things with quarterbacks that very few people in really the history of college football have ever done in terms of, producing top flight guys, Heisman winners. Say what you want about the stats and how they play out west. That's everybody's got an opinion on that. The guy gets guys drafted, and the guy makes successful quarterbacks. So I think that that's going to be really compelling for him as well. And then with Nebraska, he has a chance to go there and be the centerpiece of the rebuild, and they'd love him forever just for coming. It's a dire situation, and there's a long way for Nebraska football to go before things are going to get better. I don't know that 4 years is going to do it, but he would be well loved. There's no question about it. Already is. I mean, as the son of Dominic Raiola, but he being who he is and what he could mean to that program, it would be pretty huge.
I'm not saying he won't because of this, but can you imagine the pressure, just the weight on your shoulders to come in and be the chosen one at quarterback? I mean, I think the best comparison for Georgia as of late would probably be like Jacob Eason. Like that.
Yeah, right.
That dude walked into a situation, Justin Fields. I mean, that it doesn't always work out that way. So
well, I'll say this too. I mean, look at Quinn Ewers this past year at Texas. I mean, Quinn Ewers is not the belle of the ball in Austin right now. Not like he was this time last year. When he was coming in, he was going to come save that thing, and everything was going to be awesome, and everything was going to be great. And now, I'm not saying like most of the fan base or anything, but there's a noticeable portion of the fan base that doubts the kid, and they're ready for Arch Manning. And you go to an unsettled situation, you can't lift all the boats with your tide, then it's tough to stay in the good graces. And you get a lot of guys turning on you. And I'm not necessarily saying they pay attention to that per se, but I think that's something to consider.
I think these guys do, man. I think they're way more plugged in than they admit.
One thing I'll say on that Ewers front is how much of that is not necessarily Quinn Ewers as much as it is Arch Manning. Probably,
yeah, I think part of it is, but what do you think USC? What do you think? My chair just fell. I just broke my chair.
Munson moment.
I know, right? I think part of it's Arch Manning, but at the end of the day, when they were recruiting Arch Manning this preseason, I don't think they were going ahead and talking about him being supplanted. I think it was Quinn Ewers kind of struggling and them losing some games they shouldn't have lost because he couldn't just make up for all the deficiencies in that program. And I think any quarterback who wants to come and think, all right, well, I can lift this thing, I can be the one to dig it out, man, that's some hubris, dude. And I'm not, 18-year-olds have egos.
The coaches and fans tell them that they're going to do it, though. They buy into it. Hey, if
they're like Kirby, then they blame the entitlement on us.
Was Merklinger on campus too?
He was supposed to be there today, so we probably won't get returns on that until tomorrow. But
okay, I was curious about that when I saw those names. I was like, are they going to have both quarterbacks there at the same time? Because I couldn't remember a time when that happened.
Merklinger was supposed to go to Michigan State and then come to Georgia.
Okay.
Definitely a kid to watch, though. And a tremendous player in his own right. I know everybody, listen, it's sexy to be the number one quarterback in America. There's no question about it. But Merklinger, a fantastic player too. I feel very, very strongly that Georgia would be quite happy with a Merklinger Puglisi class if they were able to pull that off. But he's got great options too. Tennessee is sort of making him the dude for their class. So Georgia has to kind of combat up against that. There's a lot of love in the Merklinger household. His mom went to Georgia. And he said, yeah, that was a pretty special moment when he received that offer. So one of the other interesting takeaways, I thought, at least from this weekend, was another tight end offer out to Caleb Odom out of Carrollton. Georgia, man, they got a lot of irons in the fire here when it comes to tight end in this class. They've already got a tremendous one committed in Landon Thomas, but Jaden Riddell is I think number 6 in the industry, but number 1 according to On3's ranking. Caleb Odom now with the offer. You've got Brady Pricecorn, I think, put them into his top list. So they're casting a pretty wide net there. It's going to be interesting to see. Georgia, apparently, I guess, is just going to be a 2 tight end class every year, which is pretty bizarre and unique, I think.
Yeah. I mean, look at how I won't say it was a 1-for-1 impact, but I saw a lot of big, talented tight ends hitting the portal this year, not just because they saw Georgia do it, but I think it gave them a little bit of a reason to say, okay, if the tight ends are going to be in vogue now in offenses in college football, let me see what I can get. Let me see where I can go. And I think that Georgia kind of started a trend here. And it's going to be hard to replicate that if you don't have Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers, but you might have some Todd Monken tight end light offenses springing up here and there over the next couple seasons.
Look at Georgia.
Most of those dudes that entered the portal were from Georgia. I mean, Georgia had 3 tight ends enter the portal. I do want to respond to something Matthew C. said over here about Ewers getting hurt. Listen, I'm not bagging on Quinn Ewers. I'm just saying they'll turn on you in a hurry. Whether you get hurt, whether you don't, if you're not delivering, if you're not the tide that's raising all the boats, they will turn on you and they will want the next guy. And, there's just a lot of pressure involved in that if you're expected to be the savior of the program. And that's 100% what Dylan Raiola will be expected to do if he goes to Nebraska.
Georgia with 10 commits already in this class. That's pretty strong. That's, before we even hit summer. And, this is a situation where, like I said, all these tight ends, I think it may boil down to who commits first. It may be who takes the spot. So, that may be the case in a lot of these instances. I was talking to somebody on the board. I mean, you've got 2 top flight safeties still committing or still considering you, and you've got 2 top flight ones already committed. So Georgia's got a pretty interesting balancing act, I think, on its hands when it comes to how they end up addressing this year, because there's a bit of an embarrassment of riches. By the way, shout out to that man right above Ryan Puglisi there on your screen, Dwight Phillips, laying down the 10-2-9 in the 100, just absolutely blazing dudes, man.
Yeah, it made it look easy too. Yeah, I mean, just to take it full circle though, I mean, Georgia paying all these assistants, paying the coordinators. I mean, with all of the changes in this revolving crazy carousel of assistant coaches trying to get jobs in the NFL because they hate how the game is going right now. Doesn't really seem to be the case at Georgia. And look, they have the luxury of being able to afford to pay some guys to stay where a lot of other schools probably can't. But that stability, man, every little bit of it helps. And Georgia's reaping the rewards of it.